questions, then we're going to go ahead and start taking notes for today. You may have noticed that I didn't post any sort of sheet for today, and that's because we're taking handwritten notes. So grab a piece of notebook paper from your notebook, and we're going to take some notes on solving absolute value inequalities today. So last week on Thursday, we talked about solving absolute value equations, and this week we're going to talk about solving absolute value inequalities. Okay, so I'm going to start on a fresh page so that your notes are nice and neat, okay? And where'd my pen go? We're going to use all right, so we're solving absolute value inequalities. Okay, so last week we did equations. This week we're doing inequalities. All right, so step one, when we're solving absolute value inequalities, is to isolate the absolute value expression. Okay, so you may be wondering exactly what this means. This means that we are taking an absolute value expression or an inequality, okay, that maybe looks like this, and we want to get this part by itself. So this needs to be by itself. Okay, in order to get that by itself, we need to subtract 3 from both sides. So these would cancel. And then we're left with the absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than c minus 3 on the right-hand side. Okay, so this is our goal. Okay, is to get our function looking like this. So the absolute value is by itself. Okay, what questions do you guys have about that? Oops. Questions about that step? Okay, if there are no questions, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so the step 2 is going to be to pick the form of your inequality. Okay, so there are going to be 4 different forms of our inequalities. I'm going to show you each of those in a minute. So step 1 is to isolate our absolute value. And step 2 is to figure out which form you have. So we could have form 1, oops. We'll do form 3 here, form 2, or form 4. Okay. So there's 4 different ways we can write our inequalities. So in form 1, you'll have the absolute value of some sort of function on the inside is strictly greater than b. Okay, so this has an open circle when we draw it on a number line. Okay, and it means greater than. Okay. When we have this greater than symbol, we will rewrite as we will rewrite it in 2 different forms. Okay, so we're going to have x plus a is greater than b, and we'll have x plus a is greater than negative b, kind of like our equations that we did last week. All right, and the last step is going to be to solve for x. So then solve for x. Okay, so that's form 1 when we have strictly greater than. Okay. Form 2 is going to be when we have greater than or equal to. So this means we're going to have like a closed dot if we were to draw this on a number line. We would have greater than or equal to. Sorry. Okay. And this is going to look something like x plus a is greater than or equal to b. Okay, so I like to think of this as like the alligator thing. The alligator always wants to eat the bigger thing, so this one must be greater than that one. Okay, so this is greater than or equal to. And we're going to rewrite this. So rewrite in 2 different forms. We're going to have x plus a is greater than or equal to b, and we're going to have x plus a is greater than or equal to negative b. Okay, and then we would solve for x. Okay, what questions do you guys have about that? Okay. In form 3, we're going to have another open circle, but this time it's going to be less than. Okay, we're going in the other direction. So you'll have x plus a is less than b. And we rewrite as x plus a is less than b. We also rewrite as x plus a is less than negative b. Okay, and then solve for x. What questions do you guys have so far?
So it's every time it's gonna be a different letter. So like top for step 1. For step 1 you said C, and then for the second step you put B, right?
Oh,
so
it doesn't really matter. C and B represent any real number.
okay, so
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just an arbitrary variable.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so form 4 is going to be a closed circle, and it's going to be less than or equal to. Okay. So this time we have x plus a less than or equal to b, and then x plus a less than or equal to negative b. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I mixed it all up. Those should be down here, but without absolute value. Oh my goodness, I apologize. So down here we have x plus a less than or equal to b, and x plus a less than or equal to negative b. And then up here we should just have the general form. We should just have the absolute value of x plus a is less than or equal to b. Okay, and the last step, just like all the others, is to solve for x. Okay, and we'll do examples together. So, all right, what questions do you guys have so far? Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and start doing examples. Okay. So example 1, I'm going to have x, the absolute value of x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. So in this example, the absolute value is already isolated. So step 1 is done. Okay. Then in step 2, we have to identify which one it is. So it's greater than or equal to, which was form 2. So I need to rewrite it as x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 1, and x minus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 1. Okay, so it splits into two different forms of the function. Sorry, somebody is asking. Hey, Rashani. Ouch. Okay, so we have our 2 different equations, and now we have to solve for each one. So we want to add 2 to each side. Then I'm going to get x is greater than or equal to 3. And over here, I'm adding 2. And x is greater than or equal to, plus 1. Okay, now I want to draw this out on a number line. Okay, so I have 1 on my number line. Here's maybe 0, 1, 2, 3. Right, so this is telling me that my function, or that my value of x has to be greater than or equal to 1. So up this way, or greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so both of these are kind of covered by x being greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so we would pick that because it gets the most values in there. Okay, and it kind of depends on what the question is asking for. So then, so what questions do you guys have about that example, actually, before I keep going? Okay, hopefully it's okay. Okay, and then in example 2, okay, I'm gonna have you guys help out with this because you guys not asking questions is making me a little nervous. Okay, so in example 2, I'm gonna have 4x plus 8 plus 6 is strictly greater than 30. Okay, so Monica isn't here. Lamero.
Yeah.
So step 1 says to isolate the absolute value expression. So what do I need to move so that the absolute value is by itself? The absolute value section is right here. What's outside of that that's still on the left-hand side that's got to go?
4x.
So the 4x is inside of the absolute value. We want to keep like this whole thing right there. So what has to move? So what's the only thing left when I cover up that piece because we're not going to move it?
The 6.
Yeah, so how do I get rid of this 6?
You subtract it.
Perfect. So minus 6. Minus 6 was 30 minus 6. So if you have $30 and I take 6 away from you, how much?
I didn't hear you ask the question.
Oh, it's okay. So 30 minus 6 is?
24.
Perfect, 24. Okay, so we have isolated our absolute value. And so now we need to split it into